one of 2 math majors in my class.
How
about that?
In the entire senior class? No.
That's right.
There had not been the, Converse was a teacher's college, right?
Converse was a liberal arts college.
Okay,
and
good.
has a strong music
Maybe
school.
Columbia College, I'm thinking of, yes. But it has a strong liberal arts and music background, But no one else had thought about teaching math.
Well, math is just not something that females tend to gravitate toward, but it's what I loved, so that's what I did.
How fascinating. Do you still dabble in that or help your grandchildren out at all, or were you working with banks and back that way?
I pay the bills and manage the finances for our family.
Yes, good. During Joe's starving years, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
how
right.
exciting, Carlisle. Did you have a love of the international environment, the international landscape prior to...
You know, Greg, when I look back on my life, it made perfect sense. I was a high school exchange student to Denmark.
Really?
In 1958, so we actually talking with my Danish sister now about trying to do something to celebrate 50 years.
50 years ago this year.
Because we have remained close with that family.
That's
Joe and I
tremendous.
visited, and they visited us here. We always bring them to Litchfield Beach when any of our good European friends come. We always make a trip to South Carolina.
How exciting, Carlisle. Yes, so there had been that love that began 50 years ago.
50 years ago, and then soon after we moved to Durham, North Carolina in 1980, the Presbyterian Church started doing some people-to-people visits between Christians in the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And I was part of that initial program in 1983, and then helped with subsequent groups that went. So that was quite an experience.
I was about to say, was that ever some level of anxiety for anyone other than, I'm sure all your family members, they were a little anxious about you heading out of the country?
It was an exciting time to be doing that, and you know, it was a wonderful experience because we were mainly visiting with people, church people, even during the Soviet period. So we were finding out that they had some of the pretty much the same desires and hopes for their children that we had for ours. And it was a time when we really broke through the fears and the stereotypes that we each had of the other.
Right.
So I did that over a 20-year period, and in fact, in April, I'm going to be helping with a similar seminar to Romania to visit with people in the Orthodox Church of Romania and to visit the tourist highlights in that country. So I want to keep doing things at the international level.
That's wonderful.
To build friendship and understanding. That's kind of what I've been about.
Not in 100+ countries, but focusing on 1 or 2 or 3.
Yes. Moving on around.
And the travels have been very important, not only to you. You and Joe both have done some travels together. Did you take your son and daughter on many of those trips?
We took them to Europe when they were younger and kind of whetted their appetite. Then they've arranged their own things since then. But I felt like one of the things that my exchange experience did in high school was made me realize it wasn't that big a deal to get across the ocean. And so it opened me up to opportunities and interests in other places.
That's very important and something to pass on to others. Surely for those international students, the 2,200+ now studying in Durham there on the campus, it's a big deal, or 2,000+ coming over for them, but they've figured out it's not that big a deal. It's something they can do.
That's right.
And in the same way, obviously them interacting with students in Durham reminds the students there, hey, come on over.
Absolutely. They're a real asset to the education. And as you know, the business school, the law school, all have large international programs so that people who are studying are getting a global sense about the topics that they're studying. I would imagine your South Carolina, all your South Carolina colleges and universities would have something similar to International House where citizens can plug in and get involved as a friend in town to students.
Sure. Here in our viewing area, the Coastal Carolina University, Francis Marion University, of course, UNC Pembroke, as well as St. Andrew in Laurinburg, which is here in our viewing area. A lot of very important schools that I'm sure, have an international presence.
St. Andrews is where our daughter went.
That's right. Now, does she go by Rebecca or Becky?
She goes by Rebecca now.
By Rebecca now. That's right. Of course, when I was in high school with her, I think she was Becky, but Rebecca, a lot of folks who know her. And am I correct? Is she the youth pastor now or youth minister there at First Presbyterian Church of Durham?
She is, Greg.
How did she become fall into that trap? I mean, how did she?
It's interesting. Rebecca was a very typical teenager. Did a lot of different
Preacher's
things.
kid, yeah. Right. Oh no, I'm kidding. Yeah.
Well, she was. Let's just say she enjoyed her teenage and college years.
Yeah, yeah.
And when she graduated from college, she worked for a year in the St. Andrews area, and then she came back to Durham, and she got involved as a volunteer with the youth program. Mm-hmm. So she did that for a number of years. And a little over a year ago, when we needed a new youth minister,
right.
The committee came to my husband, who is the pastor of the church, and said, Rebecca, we'd like Rebecca to be the interim because she's done this so long and she's good with the youth.
Yeah.
And Joe thought, well, this is not appropriate.
Oh, yeah,
for my daughter to be on staff. So he talked to the people at the presbytery office, and they said, well, interim would be okay because that means they're still looking for somebody. It'll be a short time.
Yeah.
And later the committee came to him and said, she is doing a really good job.
Gangbuster, yeah.
And we really want to keep her. And Joe said, well, it's just not appropriate. And, you know, Joe is, he's past 65. And so the committee chair said, well, aren't you thinking about retiring before too long? In other words,
come on.
If we have to choose.
Oh, my.
I'm sure,
wow.
I'm sure it was in
Carlisle.
jest.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was in jest.
But still, wow.
But anyway, it is working well. We have an associate pastor that Rebecca reports directly to. And
how exciting,
and
Carlisle.
as she said, as Joe said, well, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to be telling, you know, her what to do.
Right, right.
But Rebecca's she's a pretty
she's
strong
girl, a big woman. Yeah,
that's right. She's a strong woman.
She knows her what's going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's working great.
That's wonderful. We mentioned Rebecca. You all also have a son.
Our son Banks Harvard, who's recently moved from California back to the East Coast.
That's
and
right.
We're thrilled to have
And
him
he's
back.
living where now, Carlisle?
He's living in Charlotte.
Good. Yeah.
And he was in TV work out west.
That's right, in Palm Springs, I believe. Yeah.
So
I
he's
called
looking for
Pete,
something in the area.
I called Pete Sealer yesterday to tell him to come on by the Bridal House of Charleston this morning to see y'all or to see your husband tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have a chance to come by tomorrow.
Right.
Pete, who you remember Banks worked with
That's
out in Palm
That's
Springs
right.
at KDFX and KECY. And then, of course, he has stayed out there and loved or had stayed out there for quite a while.
Yes, he did.
More than a decade, it seems like, being out there.
You got it. That's right.
You know, it's so fascinating as you think through all those steps. Is the International House there a Duke just for international students, Carlisle?
Good question, Greg. Actually, we really encourage U.S. American students to get involved in our programming because we feel like they add to the experience of the international students and vice versa. And then we have several programs that pull community members in. Mm-hmm. One of the programs that pulls students in the most is we have a language partners program. So a student studying French, Spanish, or now more likely Chinese or Arabic,
right, sure,
can be paired with a student whose native language is that. And the agreement is that they will meet once a week and spend at least 30 minutes speaking in English and 30 minutes in the language, the native language of the student.
Right.
Which will be helpful to both of them.
Oh, yeah, excellent
And then
thinking.
The hope is that they also will say, well, you know, let's go for a movie or let's go to a ball game together.
Right.
That will build a relationship, and they really will learn about each other's cultures as well as the language.
Excellent.
And people in town also can plug into that program. We often would have people say, I'm going to have a business trip to Korea. I want to learn a little bit of Korean, and that's great. Mm-hmm. We could pair them with a Korean student or a Japanese student, wherever this trip was going to be. And they could learn a little, but they also were helping the native speaker learn U.S. American slang,
right,
just general things about our culture. So it was a win-win situation.
That has proven to be as valuable as it sounds, I'm sure.
It has.
That is wonderful. You know, as you visit the website and see, of course, training and workshops, programs at the International House, but page after page, you come for advice, get assistance, discuss a problem, attend cultural events, obviously, borrow household items. It just goes, the list goes on. Learn about getting involved in the community, go on a shopping trip, come in for a cup of tea. It sounds like it just all went on. Reserve the location for a party or a special occasion. Did you open up the International House?
People could reserve the house after 5 on weeknights or on the weekend.
Right.
And it might be that a few of them would get together and use the kitchen and really cook a meal, and the living room had a good TV and all the equipment that you would need to have a party. And so they might have a birthday party, whatever.
Right.
So, yeah,
wow.
we did do that. And that was a nice thing to be able to offer students, to have a home away from home.
Oh, yes,
to have
absolutely.
a function. We've had wedding receptions there.
Is that right? At the International House?
Students got married.
How exciting. And probably for a lot of them, over the 40-year period, to have, now it must be even more than 40 years
that's right.
that it's been open, for a lot of them to come back and know the impact of a location like the International House. Obviously, it was the university and the community writ large that really made the impact, but having something, a central location that, for them probably is memories that they'll never forget.
Students, would, when they come back, often come to visit, so that was nice.
Yeah. For you, Carlisle, the 21-plus years there, what impacted you the most? Did you think you got more out of them, or they out of you?
I know I got more.
Yeah.
I often tell people I had the best job at Duke. Not the best paid job, but the best job. And it was a real pleasure to do that kind of work, to be helpful to people, to learn about their situations, to help them with issues that would come up. You know, sometimes they didn't get treated right at a local business. I remember when Tiananmen Square happened, that's a long time ago. In China, things were really hostile and hot. A student had saved his money and was headed home for the first time during the 3 years he had been at Duke. And he was supposed to fly to Beijing the following day after Tiananmen Square had started. And the travel agency said the planes were not flying, but they would not refund his money. You know, that wasn't right.
Wow. No, of course not.
So
y'all helped make that
we
right.
We helped make that right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Carlisle, sorry we've run out of time. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you, my friend.
We're excited to be with your hubby tomorrow. I want to get some good questions to fire at him tomorrow.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the former director of the International House for Duke University and its Medical Center, Carlisle, Harvard. Coming up next. You know, you may not normally think of a house like this. I love those key letters, A in assistance, A in advice, A in advocacy, and support. Those big A's there stepping out, and you think about living in the International House. Carlisle broke it down, not living there, but having that impact, providing the advice, the support for these students. What were 400 students back in '86 when she arrived, now more than 2,000 international students, making a real impact on the residents of Durham, the residents and the members there, the students there at Duke University, and of course at the Medical Center. The impact the International House is making every day is reflected in Carlisle and the entire staff there and all the folks that came in to volunteer to support the international community at Duke University. A special place. Go online to duke.edu and learn more about the International House.